Alright, welcome back, and it's time to do a little game comparison. Now, originally I didn't plan to do a video on this because I thought that I would be able to find all the answers that I needed online, but unfortunately, as usual, the information that I was looking to find didn't exist, so yeah, I had to do it myself. And I don't mind to do it myself. After all, I do love to test things out. I love to test out games, game performance and stuff like that. It's been a thing that I kind of started to do a lot recently, and as I mentioned before, I love to test things out. So, today we'll be taking a look at Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact. Also, obviously, one of the reasons why I didn't plan a video on this is I didn't feel like downloading 35 gigabytes on a game that has a broken netcode, basically artificially limiting your download. But here I am, 35 gigabytes later. As usual, we will be testing out the performance, and besides performance, I will be taking a look at the overall graphics, details, textures, stuff like that, the overall optimization, gameplay, combat, and all the things that go along with that. Now, performance-wise, I will be using the same monitors that I usually use. They will show us the internal temperatures as well as important statistics and data on the RAM usage, GPU usage, CPU usage, and things like that. Something that I don't see often being shown in other tests, and I kind of want to give the most complete picture that there is, and in order to give the most complete picture, you have to basically include everything, and that includes to have all sorts of different monitors that show the real thing. I say real thing, I mean, you do have other monitors that pretend to show the real temperatures, but they don't do that. That's a problem that I don't know why that's a problem really, but these applications that I use are accurate and they show the exact temperature to a very high degree. When I say to a very high degree, what temperature you see here, that's literally the exact temperature that is inside of the device. And the GPU watch will show us the frame rate, the resolution, and the overall load. As many windows as possible will be opened so that we have as I mentioned before, a complete picture. I also want to see which one of these two games is actually more demanding. This is one of the questions that I had for a very long time, and I did find my answer. That's to mention. So let's prepare and let's boot up both games and see what we can do. Now, originally, I planned to play both games side by side next to each other. Literally, what you see on the screen here, that's basically what I wanted to do. I figured out that would be the best way to do it, and I would say it would be a very interesting way to do it. But I stumbled upon a couple problems, and I think it's not going to be the problem that most of you would expect. One game had 5 years to add controller support, and they didn't. While the other game literally had control support almost from day one, basically. And yeah, that's the problem. One game doesn't support a controller, the other game does. And without a controller support on the other game, I am basically unable to play them at the same time. So here is Wuthering Waves loaded in, and also immediately when I loaded up the game, I immediately knew what to expect. Although my subconscious was already telling me to brace for impact, and pun was not E10, by the way. My subconscious told me that the differences are going to be huge. and they will be very big. Well, both games are loaded in, and we need to have our first look at the environment, at the details and stuff. Now let me connect my controller. As I mentioned before when I was recording this, I actually thought that Genshin had a controller support, but as I found out very quickly, it doesn't, and 5 years and no controller support is a little bit embarrassing, honestly, especially for a game that has the budget that it has, while Wuthering Waves literally, yeah, as you can see, already works, and Genshin, nope, no response to my commands, and Wuthering Waves, yeah, there it is, works. So, off to a very good start, I would say. When I say very good start, I was a little bit sarcastic. But yeah, let me show you the settings for both games. Now, Wuthering Waves does allow you to go up to any resolution that you really want. You can customize the resolution from the config file if you like. So you can go 4K, 2K, 1440p, 1080p, any resolution that you really want, and the game is crystal clear. Now, Genshin, on the other hand, I tried to find a configuration file, but I didn't really find any, and I was told by my friend that if I do tamper with stuff like that in Genshin, you can get banned for that. So didn't find any configuration file, and I wasn't really didn't want to play around with getting banned for no reason. So we will have the highest possible options for both of the games here. I have a high resolution on Wuthering Waves because that's pretty much around the same resolution that we see on Genshin Impact, but as we were about to find out, Genshin Impact runs at a very low resolution. The game says 886p on the GPU watch, but I would say that's definitely lower. I would say like 540p or 720p. That's the resolution that I think the game is running in. Well, Wuthering Waves supports native out of the box pretty much, and Wuthering Waves, as I mentioned before, supports any resolution that you put in, basically. So you can scale that up to factor 2, factor 4. If you want to go 8K, you can easily go 8K, no problem. On Genshin, you're stuck with something that does look like 720p, but I don't know, I'm confused about the resolution on that game. Now, something that some of my friends mentioned, once they started to play Wuthering Waves, they started to find something quite odd with some of the Genshin character models. Overall, I can kinda see what they're talking about, and the models in okay, sorry for the Genshin weird cut. As usual, I have a bad habit of accidentally disconnecting my microphone, so yeah, that happened. Okay, let me assemble the teams, and actually, wait a second. Let's take a look at the main characters first. Now, in Wuthering Waves, you can pretty much change the character from the male rover to the female rover. I mean, that's a very nice touch, really. On Genshin, you're pretty much, I think you're stuck with the main character to pick on the very beginning of the game. I tried to find the option to change appearance, but that wasn't available, it seems. Over here, it's actually quite easy to do that. You just have to relock, basically. Now, this is about to be a very interesting test for sure. Wuthering Waves does have ray tracing support, or it is starting to actually fully utilize that. On Genshin, on the other hand, I don't think that exists in that game, at least not at the moment. And if it does get added, you can bet Android will not get it. We all know that for some reason. For some reason, Android doesn't get any new stuff, graphics-wise, for Genshin Impact. Due to unknown reasons for me, it's honestly very odd to have like the most powerful mobile GPU, but the graphics of the game on the right don't seem to get better, while Wuthering Waves actually does seem to improve the graphics with each new version. And we will come to the performance, very, very quickly. And well, here are the main characters side by side. Honestly, when I look at the characters now, there is obviously a difference in the art style, and the art style I don't really mind the art styles on both games. I mean, if you like colorful, that's fine. If you like the more dark tone, that's fine. I'm more interested for the details, for the character details, for the model details, quality and stuff like that. You can have a colorful art style and have a very detailed, high quality model. You can also have a more darker, more gloomy art style, and that can also be highly detailed, which we see on Wuthering Waves quite effectively and quite noticeably. Well, I think we all know where this is going to go when this test starts. We can see a huge difference in the overall character model quality. Oh my god, actually, I expected the difference, right? But when I actually looked at both games side by side, I was unpleasantly and pleasantly surprised at the same time. Okay, well, let's start with Wuthering Waves. Now, as I mentioned before, resolution-wise, this game supports any resolution that you basically want. The default resolution on the game is on high. It does upscale the resolution to full 1080p. Oh, that's definitely helping a lot with the image quality and clarity. If you're unhappy about the overall image quality, you can easily just tweak that and improve it, which means you're free to choose whatever quality resolution that you want. Performance wise, now I'm running the game in the resolution factor, I think 3 times, or actually no, it's scaled up 2 times, so basically 1080p times 2, which is around 4K, should be 4K, and the resolution percentage is also increased to about 200-300% to match the scale factor. And as we can see, the game is overall crystal clear, sharp. Performance wise, this game did have a rough start on the beginning. Did have a lot of performance related problems. Some of these problems are still persisting, but overall, in general, the performance of this game vastly improved over the past 6 or 7 months. We still have no Vulkan support. There is obviously still room for improvement. The game runs in OpenGL, which is causing issues across the board, but the developers definitely did a nice work to minimize those problems, and right now we are waiting for the official Vulkan support, and I believe when the game gets Vulkan, performance will skyrocket and the game will run much smoother than it is right now. But honestly, it's pretty smooth as it is, considering that I'm running the game in double the native resolution, with all sorts of other options enabled. You can see the reflections. Volumetric fog, volumetrics are present. Reflections, as you can see on the ground, they're also present. These are screen space reflections, I believe. The game also has ray tracing, but screen space reflections do give overall better performance. Ray tracing was disabled, but the overall config for ray tracing is in the game, and it's clear that it will be put in at one point. On mobile, on PC, you will get ray tracing on this game. I'm just not sure when, but the preparations for it seem to be completed, and they just need to officially launch that. The quality of the scenery, the character model quality, NPCs and all that, honestly is quite impressive indeed, actually. The water reflections and overall water effects are definitely very nice, and the ripple effect, draw distance, everything that you see right now is crystal clear. Even the... I mean, I have no complaints, can't find any complaint really about the overall image quality and the textures of the game. They did a fantastic job to make the game look very, very nice. And despite the supposed gloomy aspect of the game, the colors are quite vibrant, as we can see here, depending on the time, of course. The weather system is generally speaking very nice, and the game's atmosphere does change a lot based on the weather itself. Up close, the characters also look very nice and sharp. There is no pixelization, there is no blur. The game does have temporal anti-aliasing, and temporal anti-aliasing can sometimes make, actually not sometimes, can make the image look make the image look blurry. However, that's not a big problem at the moment here. If you increase the resolution, if you basically make the render resolution higher than usual, you can get the blur effect minimized, or in this case I don't think there is any blur. There is just everything is just crystal clear and very, very sharp. Now, if you might be wondering, well, why is my frame rate all over the place? That's because I'm recording. I find a reason why the frame rates also drop. I use a older recorder, or older version of the recorder that I use because I never updated it, and it does create a little conflict within the drivers and stuff, and that the recorder does tend to drop frames. But if you looked at the previous tests that I've done with this game with the current settings, it did run very smoothly at 4K, around 50-60 FPS with the current options. So that's basically the frame rate that I'm basing the test on. The recorder here is messing up my FPS, but without recording, yeah, 50-60 FPS with ease. So overall, while the game does run well, the game also does tend to do some funny things with the CPU, which Vulkan will fix when that's released. But overall performance much better than before. And performance will be a big topic today, because one game, Wuthering Waves, is only like, what, 6-7 months old, and they vastly improved performance, quality, graphics and everything. The game looks and runs much better than it used to on day one. Now, what do you think? What did the other developer team do to the other game's performance on Android, at least? Did they improve anything? What do you think? Yes or no? Well, yeah, they didn't, but we will come to that in a moment. As I mentioned before, if you are unhappy about how the game looks, you can go and basically tweak that to your liking, which is a huge plus and a huge quality of life thing that you can do. And there's the ray tracing JSON file configuration in the settings right here. That's what I was talking about earlier. The game does have that. Okay, let's go to the config, and that's wrong. Wait a second. Why am I lost? Save, there it is. Okay, they added a bunch of different folders here, new folders, so I'm kind of lost. So here you can change the scale. Let's go to 720p, and let's go change the viewport to 300. That way you still get a very sharp game, because I don't like when a game appears blurry. I really dislike blur, especially when I have a high and quite powerful GPU on this device. I want to take advantage of it, so I might as well go and take advantage of it by adding a lot more resolution than there was by default. Okay, let's go and jump back in the game, and let's see. And immediately the resolution did go down. Now it's 720p. And I can tell you right away, Wuthering Waves in 720p looks much sharper than Genshin Impact in the supposed 900p or close to it. That's what I'm saying. Genshin Impact seems to be running at a lower resolution than what it's displayed here on the widget at the top left side of the screen. And if I were to disable the TAA in that game, the image quality would just drop and it would be a pixelated mess. I dislike blur, I dislike a pixelated mess, and unfortunately there is no way for me to improve the overall image quality of that game. They don't even have a upscaler to at least make the image a little bit sharper. That's very weird that they don't have that with the budget that they bring in on a monthly or a yearly basis, while Wuthering Waves has all the new tech literally out of the box. In any case, well, now the FPS should be a little bit better. Now my recorder will not mess up the frames that much. It will still mess up frames, but not that much. And yeah, sharpness and visually it still looks very, very detailed, very nice. Obviously, running the game at a high resolution will give you overall a more sharper image quality, but it still looks very sharp, and I wouldn't really notice any pixelization or any blur. Actually, there is no blur at all. It looks very sharp even on the current resolution. That's because of the FSR upscaling. The FSR does work wonders when you set it up right, especially if you manually set it up in a configuration file. Quite literally able to eliminate most of the artifacts, able to improve the sharpness of the entire image, and therefore you will notice the lower resolution much less. The draw distance and overall background details and the sky as well, the skybox of this game is just beautiful. The weather and clouds and stuff, highly detailed, which kind of surprised me. I was very surprised by the initial details of the game, because developers put all sorts of little details all over the place that you wouldn't really notice if you were to play the game normally. Some details you really have to look for in order to see them. And now we do get better FPS with minimal to almost no impact on the overall image quality. And again, very grateful, very happy that Kuro allowed us to basically change our resolution to whatever we like. And I love when a developer team does have such a support. You can take a look at the sky, at the sun. The volumetrics work really well. I can even enhance the volumetrics from the configuration file, but yeah, that would be a little bit overkill in this little test, because even the default right now is basically, yeah, it works really good. Okay, let's go and take a look at the water effects, because one of my favorites are definitely the water effects. And on the Black Shores you have quite literally one of the prettiest examples of water effects done in a very nice way. I noticed a little difference between the PC version and the mobile version, at least for now, although I've been told that it's a bug in the last version update. Basically, you don't see the 3D wave, although you should have seen the 3D wave on the mobile version as well. So that is one of the things that need to be fixed. But even now, without the 3D wave effect, honestly, it looks very nice. The ground detail, the reflection, the overall environment, everything just looks crystal clear. I'm trying to see if there's that fog effect where you can see the sun rays reflect off of fog particles. There's fog, okay. There's all of highly detailed grass. I mean, just look at this map, is just beautiful. Yeah, there is the fog and the reflections. The sun reflecting off the fog is also very nice to look at. Graphically speaking, Kuro did a very good job with the game. There is no denying it. Shadows and all that also very detailed, and they act in a very nice way. Yeah, this looks very nice. There's just no denying it. Even the details on the faraway objects look very good. The rock detail, yeah, there is no blur, there is no low texture, there is no pixelization. Reflections from the sky also look very nice. And you can leave traces in the water and in the ground below the water once you walk over it. Overall, absolutely gorgeous. No complaints. This is by far the best looking open world of this type on the platform right now. Until the Unreal Engine 5 anime open world games are being released later this year. That will be a very interesting comparison that I cannot wait to do. Those should be fun. Okay, let me just go to a couple more areas here. Clouds and stuff look very nice. This is an area where I like to take a look at overall clouds and the sky in general. A nice little lens flare halo effect. Also very nice touch to the overall look of the game. Well, no complaints. Graphically speaking, from me on about this game, I have no complaints. This game just looks amazing. Looks very nice, and you will find very little differences between the mobile and PC version of the game. One key difference that the mobile version has with the PC version is the bloom for some reason, although on my settings here I don't really have that problem. This is one of the new maps, by the way, and I picked this specific area because the shadows and everything looks so detailed and so nice. It is sharp. It is sharp and crystal clear, and this just looks like eye candy. Honestly, I could be here the whole day and look at the environment. The new map is just amazing, graphics wise. As I mentioned before, the overall lighting is very well done in the game, and the lighting can affect the overall view and the overall perception of the whole environment. Actually, when it's cloudy, when it's basically raining, you do have that gloomy, dark feel to it. When it's nice and sunny, you do get this type of environment that looks just very nice to look at. It looks bright and, in general, highly detailed, and it just looks good. It honestly just looks good. There is no other way to describe it. I could be on that position on that map the whole day. But let's go and see a bunch of other examples. Over here on this specific part of the map, if you look at the sky, you will see these clouds. I love these clouds, and they move, by the way. They do move. Originally, when you go to this map, this area, it will be a very stormy weather, raining, and you can even see the puddles on the ground. You can see the droplets from the rain impacting, and you can see the splash effect. Graphically speaking, this game is very well done, very well made, and it just looks gorgeous. I have literally zero complaints about the graphics. Knowing that they will improve the graphics even more, I'm honestly very excited to see what Kuro will do with the overall graphics of the game. Now, the game is running in Unreal Engine 4.27, I think. That's the accurate number. Unreal Engine 4.27. While Genshin Impact is running in Unity, and a lot of people would say Genshin doesn't look good because it's in Unity. I would disagree actually, because there's so many other games made with Unity. Just to mention some, Arknight's Enfield is made in Unity, and I would say Arknight's Enfield might rival Wuthering Waves in the graphics, in the overall graphics look. There's also Grey Raven, which improved vastly since the original release back in 2018, 2017. So the engine excuse doesn't fly. Engine is as good as the developer, as they say. Obviously, Unreal Engine's potential is not going to be fully utilized in a game like this, because that engine's full potential is completely taken advantage of when you do the more realistic type games like Call of Duty and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that you can get some good anime games. This is one very good example of work well done with Unreal Engine 4. Everything just looks really well in this game. Now, Genshin Impact had 5 years to overall improve the overall quality of the game. I don't know why they didn't, or maybe they did, but they just didn't do it on Android because, I don't know. I honestly have no idea why they don't like Android that much. Literally, best GPUs out there on a mobile device, and you can't take advantage of it. That kind of sucks. And originally, I actually thought that this test would be unfair towards Wuthering Waves because this game is much younger than Genshin Impact. Oh, was I wrong? Okay, let's go to Genshin Impact. And the first thing that I do when I log in when I test out a game, since I don't like my fingers on screen to take away from the overall, I want my fingers to be in the way, right? So I use a controller. It's much more enjoyable for me to use a controller. And when I logged in, I thought at the time, okay, this game had 5 years. There's definitely control sports. And nope, no control sport. None of it. And that kind of made me a little mad because, again, I looked at the funding, at the budget actually. I looked at the budget from Wuthering Waves, and then I looked at Genshin Impact, and then I asked myself, okay, they're earning billions, and they don't have control support. The others are earning millions, right? And they literally did every single quality of life improvement that players asked them for. And that made me a little mad. Just a little bit, because it's honestly kind of unfair to the player that there is no control support for this game after 5 years of being released. 5 years! That's a very long time. And I was looking in the settings, basically was trying to find, maybe, I thought at the time maybe there are some control options, and then I saw control type touchscreen, but there is nothing else. There is nothing else, and that's where I lost it. Basically, that's where I lost it. It is touchscreen, no control, even though control is plugged in. Lovely. Okay, well, yes, I am forced to use my my good old fingers to play the game. Now, immediately when I looked, now let's look at the overall environment. Now, the overall game looks okay. It looks nice. No complaints from me. It looks okay-ish when it comes to the overall graphics quality. My main complaint is the blur. My main complaint is the low resolution that the game is running in, because you can't really look at all the details, and you can't really discern all the details because it's, generally speaking, blurry. You don't have that problem in Wuthering Waves. Even on the default settings, when you launch the game, if you set everything on max, the game is sharp and you can pretty much discern even the smallest details, you can easily see them. Over here, you will be stuck at 1920 by 886, which is a very odd and admittedly a very weird resolution, but it doesn't look like that resolution, because we have seen Wuthering Waves in 720p, and then there's this. I would say, when I look at the screen from my point of view, the 720p on Wuthering Waves is much sharper than the 886p, supposed 886p on Genshin Impact. I would disable temporal anti-aliasing to see if that's the problem, and when I did that, it made the game look even worse than it is right now. So that's one problem that I find pretty odd with this game. Now, when we look at the ground details, and if we were to compare them, Wuthering Waves simply does seem to have overall better textures. I'm not talking about the art style, I'm talking about the textures, about the details, about the overall quality of material and stuff like that. I don't know if Genshin Impact has volumetric lighting. I think it should have that. I think I saw that in the options, to be honest. But I kind of don't really see those volumetrics kicking in. No, the effects do have that HDR to them. The effects look nice and bright, that's fine. The effects do look, generally speaking, okay, and I would say I like how the effects look. And since we are already here, gameplay is one aspect where I think I don't even need to mention that. I don't think I need to mention whose gameplay type I personally prefer and whose gameplay type would I consider to be better. When I started to play this game in 2019, I always felt like it played clunky. I feel like the overall character response time with the buttons and the overall way the combat works, I always felt it was a bit on the slower sides, a bit on the it's more unresponsive side, but at the same time it's kind of not meant to be fast-paced. I believe I can't really describe it, but the combat in Wuthering Waves is very similar to the combat in Grey Raven, and the Grey Raven has one of the best combats out of any game of this type. That's no one can argue with that. That game has one of the best combat systems, and I'm glad that Wuthering Waves does take inspiration from it. Gameplay-wise and combat-wise, honestly, I would say I would take Wuthering Waves because it has much more feel to it. Overall, the effects in general seem to be nicer on that game, and overall combat, uniqueness, difficulty, and all that seem to be not exactly easier. This game is pretty straightforward. You just click buttons basically. In Wuthering Waves, for example, you have different combos, different ultimates and stuff like that, and the combat feels more responsive in general, more satisfying, for the lack of a better word. Combat feels more satisfying. Over here, I find the combat honestly dull, and I don't know if that's improved with the new characters, because again, I didn't play this game that much, so I don't have the new characters. I can't really say for the new characters, but at the moment, I don't really see any improvement in the combat of this game. Again, maybe the new characters have better combat, but I personally don't really think that's the case based on what I see here. The gameplay is the same way, looks the same way as it did back when I tried it out for the first time. Now, the overall render distance seems to be... I'm trying to find a proper comparison, because Wuthering Waves definitely has the better textures and the overall better details, and Wuthering Waves definitely has the overall higher quality models, and in general, when it comes to graphics wise, Wuthering Waves does look better. They're just undeniable at this moment. Oh, let's take. Actually, we have water here. Okay, we will go to water very soon. Now, I find some areas in Genshin to have good looking water, but once I saw a Wuthering Waves level of water detail and quality, yeah, I think when it comes to water, there's also no comparison really. It would be unfair for this game to compare it with Wuthering Waves water effects, even though it should not be the case, really. Again, when I started this out, I thought this is going to be unfair for Wuthering Waves. After all, a newer game, right? Genshin had much more time to improve and stuff like that, but once I looked at the games, I had more questions than I had answers, to be honest. If you look at the overall rock and detail and material quality, as I mentioned before, does look more detailed, sharper on Wuthering Waves. Yeah, definitely the overall rock and material quality is more sharper on Wuthering Waves. Honestly, the whole, like, I think lighting also has a key role here, because I'm looking for effects that don't exist in this game. For example, screen space reflections don't seem to be here. The game also seems to lack anisotropy filtering, I believe. I mean, there's a lot of things that this game lacks that Wuthering Waves has. About the colors, now I'm not really sure if this one is down to our style preference, or if this is down to the overall material quality and effect quality. Somehow, when I look at the ground detail in Wuthering Waves, it somehow feels better. Like it has something that this game doesn't have. I'm just not entirely sure what it is, because right now, when I look at the ground detail here, for example, I have a feeling like it is a little bit dull. Not really sure if it's down to the color option, but at least to my eye on this screen, it does look a little bit dull. I'm not really sure what's up with that. Okay, that sucks. Yeah, ignore that happened. The stamina is kind of awful over here, so even the climbing, like the climbing mechanics, fly mechanics and all that, I find all that more enjoyable on Wuthering Waves. I run out of stamina every 3 seconds over here for some reason. No, reflections. The game does have some decent reflections here. You can quite easily see stuff reflected off in the water. However, when it comes to the reflections, like reflections of glossy surfaces, like in a city or windows, buildings and stuff like that, this game seems to lack that. The overall shadow quality is decent, but I think based on the shadow quality, I mean, it's definitely good, don't get me wrong. Shadows look decent, but I feel like Wuthering Waves shadows are much more sharper, especially when it comes to shadows from trees, leaves and stuff like that. I think we saw a good example on the shadows when I was at the Rinascita 2.0 map with the pink leaves and stuff. The shadows over there are just incredible. I would say the shadows look much better there than they look over here. And now, let's quickly go back to Wuthering Waves, and I just want to see some other things real quick. But in general, as I mentioned before on start, this game, graphically speaking, is much better. Ignoring the art style, we look at the overall details, quality, model quality, and stuff like the effects and stuff like that. And this game just blows graphically Genshin out of the water. I feel like, honestly, doing this comparison feels so unfair, because I'm trying to be nice to both games, and honestly, at the same time, at the same time, I mean, just yeah, now I know what it is. The ground is just more detailed over here. You can see a lot more stuff than just grass, while the ground detail on Genshin seems to be a bit more blurry and more monotone when it comes to the shading. Over here you see quite literally a lot more detail. Okay, that does answer my question. Okay, I talked about screen space reflections and water. One of the things I want to focus now on. So here we are, and let me go and find some. Let me go and find some water. Let me go and find some water. Where's the water? Actually, no, let's go for the reflections first. Now, maybe there are reflections that I missed in Genshin Impact where you see, pretty much look at the ground now, you see the reflections of material and stuff like that. This is pretty much what I was talking about. I don't know if that exists in Genshin. I didn't see it in the city. I didn't see it out in the wild. I looked for it. I wasn't able to find it. And I mean, just the lighting and all is just well done here. Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, everything is... Okay, this is on the default settings now, and it still looks incredible. Okay. I mean, do tell me what you think. Which game did lighting better? From my experience, from what I'm seeing here, I would say when it comes to lighting and reflections, yeah, this game takes the cake. Because, and it's not our style. I mean, you can get good reflections on a more vibrant, on a more fantasy style easily. It's doable. It's definitely doable. There is no limit in engine. Again, Wuthering Waves, Arknight's Enfield has about the same reflections that this game has. Grey Raven also has some very good reflections and overall very high material quality level, so engine is not an excuse. Oh, there, I looked for water and here is water. So, here we are. Well, I mean, you know, when I say that water looks better, it feels like the details of the water look much sharper. Part of that is the game's low resolution fault in Genshin, that the overall details look smudged and blurry. And part of that is the fact that the overall detail level is lower. That's the main difference here. And when we go in the wild, yeah, the lighting definitely plays a huge role in the overall reflections. I mean, even grass over here has some good reflections, and I like the attention to detail here. Well, I think this kind of settles it. The overall environment and textures look much nicer. And so I looked at the... You know, it's funny. The echo skill level, the echo skill effect actually reminds me a lot on Genshin character, I mean ultimate skill. I find that pretty funny as well. I mean, in general, everything looks just, for now at least, it looks nicer. Both games do have the footprints that you leave when walking around. And surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, this game does look a lot more vibrant now than it used to before. I know a lot of players didn't really like the initial gloomy look, and again, weather system in the game does make a huge impact on the overall experience of the environment. I know Genshin does have occasional rain and stuff like that. However, it never really had as much of an impact to me as it did with this game. Overall, the weather here seems to be a lot more lively, and the overall animations seem to be done better. So we are nearing at the ending phase of this video. we covered gameplay, graphics, effects, resolution and detail. And one thing I kind of want to focus on at the end are character models, because again, my friends and a lot of people told me that once they played Wuthering Waves, they started to find Genshin character models a bit weird. I think I know what they're talking about, kind of, I think I know what they're talking about. But we will take a look at the models side by side, technically, and we will see what the key differences are. Again, I try to not mix in the art style differences. After all, the art style is, I would say, the single most greatest difference between the two games. But at the same time, they do look, it's an anime game after all, so a comparison is fair. Now, look at those reflections in the water. Okay. Let's just do a boss battle. Now, as I mentioned before, gameplay. I love the gameplay in this game. Step by step, it does get better and better with each update. I like fast-paced stuff. I like when the commands actually respond to your inputs. I blame Gradient for that. That game set a standard for me, and I'm unable to play anything else unless it's very similar or close to the combat in Grey Raven. But when it comes to gameplay, I just prefer this game a lot more over Genshin Impact, because it's just smoother, much more impactful. I'm now actually starting to find proper words for it. Smoother, much more impactful. I would say much more pleasant to look at, and overall, it's in general better made, I would say. Of course, if you prefer Genshin combat, that's fine, that's totally fine. But from my perspective, and I think from the perspective of most players, I think most will prefer something that plays like this, smooth, impactful, and just looks very nice in general to look at. Okay, where should we go next? I think I basically covered all the positions that I wanted to cover. And that means it might be maybe time to take a look at the character models. So this is the main character. I picked the female rover because I have the female traveler in Genshin, so to compare, to be as similar, not similar, but to be fair, to be as fair as possible. The animations are done very well. The character doesn't look dead, although they used to look that, but they changed that, by the way. In the early days of Wuthering Waves, the facial expressions were different, definitely different. Now the characters do look alive, and I appreciate that a lot. And the overall model quality and detail quality is the same as you would find on PC and console. One thing that's the same across the platforms are the characters. They look the same. I love that. They definitely put a lot of effort into making them look nice. My apologies, some neuron activation happened in the moment. I was distracted by the beauty of this lovely character, my favorite character, by the way. Animation-wise, they do have a lot of animations. Even the skins themselves are animated, and overall sharp model. A lot of polygons on both the outfits and the character themselves, so no complaints, absolutely no complaints for me. And every character is basically very unique, with different color pattern, although that's again our style, but does have an impact on the overall experience when you view the character. As I mentioned before, some of them have unique animations, well, all of them have unique animations. And I did not see any recycling going on there. They do tend to look at you, by the way, in the camera when you look at them. That's a very nice touch as well. Overall, I could spend another 50 minutes just talking about the different animations that every character has. Literally every screen has a different animation added to it. Now, over here, one thing that bothers me personally with this game is the deadpan expression that the characters have. I don't want to sound rude. I don't want to sound, I want to be negative too much. But the characters in this game, when you look at them for the most time, they seem kind of dead, like deadpan face expression. I mean, you could play the staring game with the main character here, and you would lose probably. That's my main complaint about the character models of this game. They seem dead when you look at them, and the animations seem to cycle through quite quickly. Someone actually, I did read this. People have been saying that this game has a same animation loop, basically. It's true. No one actually see it from myself after a very long time. Yeah, the animation loop seems to be the same overall. I don't think the animations are done that well in this game. They're not bad, but for my standards, after seeing so many games, I feel like the animations are definitely in the need of an update. I mean, look at Gradient, for example. That game has a bunch of different animations and overall different character expressions and stuff like that. Kind of a shame that this game is limited in that aspect. The current ones, I mean, they're not bad. It just feels not suitable for the game that has the budget that this game has, and that's kind of the thing bugging me personally the most. But yeah, that's pretty much the thing I want to point out with this game. The overall background detail, I mean, the background does look blurry here, partially because of low resolution, partially because the overall models do reduce in quality as you are further away from them. Most games do that. It's just done a bit more aggressively in this game, I would say. You can see the tree basically completely change itself into a low texture. Actually, when I talk about... wait a second. When you look at the character window here, you can actually see the reflections on the ground, but I didn't see the reflections anywhere else on any other surface, which is kind of funny. So the game does have reflections, but it seems to be limited to certain areas only. Okay. Well, time to make that graph at the end, and we will put... I'll put every single thing out that we looked at today, and we will come to a conclusion. Alright, let's sum things up. So, I have divided the categories in graphics, optimization, resolution, gameplay, animations, environment, combat, and QoL, or quality of life. And let's start with graphics. Now, I would say Wuthering Waves is a solid 8.5 out of 10. I actually thought about going with a 9 or 9.5, but the game does seem to have some minor graphical issues here and there. Nothing game-breaking, but it's definitely not a 9 or 10 with those little problems. Doesn't mean that the game looks bad. I would say that score is pretty fair at the moment, and in the next update I think that's going to go to a 9 or 9.5, because with every update and new area, the game is looking better and better. No, Genshin is a 6 out of 10. I would say pretty average by the standards, mostly because the game's textures seem to be more blurry, more low quality. You don't really see all the details if we compare the games. We look at the, let's say, rocks, environments, ground details, character details. Genshin seems to be overall less detailed, and I'm not talking about the art style, I'm talking about the overall quality of the models, of the shaders, of stuff like that, lighting and things like that. Optimization, now this is a good one. Both are running in outdated OpenGL, and OpenGL, as we all know, is pretty much crippling performance nowadays, literally creating an artificial CPU bottleneck, and it doesn't take advantage of modern hardware. This is the thing that is kind of choking both games. That's the main thing that's shocking both games performance-wise. The only big difference is in Wuthering Waves, the developers actually done a nice work to improve the overall game performance without sacrificing any game quality, any effects. They didn't sacrifice any details for that. It's still not perfect, and they still have to implement the Vulkan support, but with every update the game did run better and better. It's not perfect though, and that's why it is 7 out of 10. Maybe 6.5 would be more accurate, but I went with 7 because quite literally with every update the game did run better and better, and I would say down the road we will get the Vulkan support. Seems that they're working on it. Genshin Impact, on the other hand, I don't really see any difference in performance throughout the 5 years of the game being out. And I tried the game out on 5 different chipsets. Originally, I played on a G90T, then a Snapdragon 855, 860, 870, and now a 8 Gen 2. The shocking thing is you would expect performance to go up, since the difference in performance between these chips is quite big with every generation. With Genshin Impact there is no difference in performance. A 845 or 860 will run the same way as a 870 8 Gen 2, which is kind of impossible because the performance difference between the chips is crazy. Yet we see the same FPS, same frame rates in the same areas. Overall, the game has, I don't see any improvement in optimization in the last 5 years. It's bad. The optimization is pretty bad, and that's why 4 out of 10, because I'm personally not happy with how that game is optimized. It's honestly not fair to the players to go through 5-6 different devices just to get the game to run the same way. That's not okay. Resolution, Wuthering Waves does run in pretty much any resolution that you want. If you want to set 2% resolution, you can. 720p 1080p is default. You can scale it up to 4K or up if you want, of course. Genshin is running at 886p, 560p, but that's also questionable because the game looks honestly very blurry, even on the supposed 886p. So the resolution in that game is honestly very odd and kind of questionable, to be honest. Gameplay-wise, gameplay scores kind of combining the whole experience with the game, climbing, exploring, running around, fighting, doing stories and stuff like that. Wuthering Waves does have the skip button, does overall do exploration, I would say better, more enjoyable. No weird stamina thing, you can climb all over the place without having to wait 8 years to climb a building or something like that. I enjoyed the gameplay a lot more in Wuthering Waves. On Genshin, it's okay. Best I would say for Genshin Impact's gameplay and overall feel average. It didn't really stick out in any shape, way or form. It is acceptable though, and it will get the job done, but it's nothing spectacular, so that's why 6 out of 10. Animations, I think this one is obvious, kind of obvious. However, I'm not aware of the animations of the newer characters. I saw some of them, and it just looks more of the same. To me, I could be wrong with this one, but animation-wise, Wuthering Waves definitely is high up there. Not a perfect 10, they're still not there yet, but they're definitely closing on that score, at least from my perspective. And that's why it's a 9 out of 10. On Genshin, a lot of animations are repeated in a very quick cycle, at least from what I've seen, and I don't really see a lot of variety between the animations. I didn't really see them, at least based on what I've tested out. Again, could be wrong with the new overall new characters that have been added. I know the lip syncing is not that good, and the overall animations in cutscenes is generally better in Wuthering Waves, so that's why the score is a 7 out of 10. Now, environment. Environment, basically sky, ground, the detail on the ground, overall quality of the detail on the grass, of the ground, of the material, water and stuff like that. When it comes to environment detail and stuff like that, Wuthering Waves pulling ahead by a lot, actually. But the environment in Genshin Impact is okay. I would say, yeah, definitely is good. It's not bad by any means. It's good for what it is. It's good. Could be better. Again, I don't know why they didn't add some of the new effects that most games have. That game kind of feels like stuck in time, to be honest. But I gave it an 8 out of 10 because I kind of enjoyed the environment and overall detail. It looks nice, but not as high quality as we see in Wuthering Waves. The detail in Genshin Impact seems a bit more blurry, a bit more low resolution as well, blurry, and combined blurriness and low resolution, and does get that cheap look. I find the words for it to describe it a bit difficult because it feels like playing a game on ultra low quality. That's basically how it feels like when I look at the overall detail on that game. Combat, this one is a clear. This one is pretty clear, honestly. Combat-wise, Wuthering Waves definitely, at least for me. If you prefer Genshin combat, that's fine. If you like Genshin combat more, again, that's fine. But I think combat's done definitely better in Wuthering Waves. Feels more impactful, feels more responsive in general, and it feels smoother. It definitely feels much more smoother, impactful, and I personally enjoyed it a lot more than the Genshin combat. Genshin combat, on the other hand, feels much slower, a lot less responsive, and it feels at the end of the like a button mashing. I only like to just mash buttons. After Great Haven, I have standards when it comes to combat, and Wuthering Waves is definitely much closer to the Great Haven standard than Genshin Impact combat-wise. Quality of life, honestly, I should give a 10 on Wuthering Waves for so far. They have been generous, very generous. Generosity is. If I say that they haven't been generous, I would take this phone, right, and put it in the oven, because that if I say that, that's not me, okay? Kuro is definitely generous with Wuthering Waves and Great Haven. I have no complaints about that. Only complaint actually is the 50-50 in the gacha. That's my only complaint about it. The 50-50 for the characters needs to go. If they ever change that, that's a perfect 11 out of 10. And I would give that score, and I would even be sarcastic, because the only thing that I don't like about Wuthering Waves is the gacha system being 50-50. I don't like that. On Genshin Impact, I think that this one I should not go into too much. I think we all know the quality of life changes there. There are some good ones, but generosity and stuff like that, yeah, let's just not go there, because it would be a mess. So yeah, that would be it for this little test. Tell me what you think down below in the comments. I spent a lot of time recording this. I need to take a little break. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.